why did we just order 8 cubic yards of compost? I guess that requires a little bit of backstory here. Yo, it's like 6:30 and I think it's creeping up into the 80s already. This was a terrible choice. I should have waited longer into the season before ordering compost. Quick overview of what I'm trying to do here. Loosen up the soil enough that I can plant for our fall and winter seasons. Most of those crops have somewhat shallower root systems, and hopefully what I'll be able to do is just get those rows ready and softened, and kind of will be able to transition over to more of a no-dig philosophy with lots and lots and lots of mulch by the time next summer rolls around. I mean, it's currently September. It got up to 116 a day or two ago. It is burning hot here, but technically we're rolling into fall here, so gotta act like it. Got about 8 rows done. Got 4 or 5 more to go. Not quite as far along as I was hoping. It ended up being a little bit more labor intensive than I expected. So we're gonna ask them to kind of dump the compost right in the center right here. And then my wife and I, we're gonna spread it out all into the rows, bring some of it into the backyard. Yeah, and get going here. I just got the call from the landscaping company that they are on their way with our compost, and I am not ready. I'm hoping that this can kind of be the last time I have to do one of these really major digs. It wasn't as bad as certainly last season, where I was digging out each individual planting hole. All that digging from last season really made it a lot easier this time around. But yeah, I'm excited to get this compost. Hopefully it's a decent quality. I've never used this company before. I really don't know what it's gonna look like, but I will kind of film it and let you know if maybe that's something you're interested in doing yourself. We're hoping that this is gonna help us get even more production next year, grow more food, and kind of up our game a little bit. So we've got the garden about 2/3 ready, but it's go time, now or never. Ooh, Nelly, that is a lot of compost. 8 cubic yards. And it is sort of kind of on our garden area. I want to say it's mostly on the driveway. Not necessarily what I was hoping for, but close enough, close enough. And overall, it's looking like pretty good stuff here. It's not like 100% decomposed. You can see that there's still some rice husks or holes kind of left over in there, but overall, honestly, it looks a lot better than I was kind of worried it was going to look like. You can also get a little bit of a ammonia-y smell off of it, which sort of indicates it's probably not fully composted, but we've got plenty of time to let it do its thing. So yeah, we've got about 8 cubic yards here. So not a ton for a lot of folks, but we're on a pretty small space. Our garden takes up most of our front yard, and so this is a pretty big delivery of compost for us. More than, I mean, by far more than we've ever gotten in the past. Step 1 was to loosely mound up some compost on top of all the rows, and that's mostly done. Now we're just gonna incorporate all of that compost down into those loosened rows. Not gonna try and do it too hardcore, just get them down there a little bit. Hopefully time will kind of do most of the incorporation and help all that compost sort of permeate down into the clay over the next 4, 5, 6 months. But we're gonna try and just give it a little head start here by mixing it in. So let's get to it. Okay, that is that. If you're asking at this point, why not just use a rototiller? Honestly, no good reason. I guess I just wanted to be a little bit more judicious about how much I was tearing up the soil that I've tried to build up over the last 6 months. And a rototiller is, well, it's indiscriminate. That's what it does. But I think a rototiller probably would have been just fine. To be perfectly honest, I'm obviously tearing up the soil quite a bit. Anyways, also I spent the last, I don't know, 13 years behind a desk. I didn't think it would kill me to do some of this by hand, which is not a great reason, but there you go. So that is that step done for one row, 11 more to go. Got a nice start going here, more than a start. Halfway done. Halfway done. What I mean a little bit closer here. You can see we've got sort of a mix of clay and compost in each of these rows, and plenty of twigs and roots. Just quick update here is the next day. My arms gave out on me yesterday. We're now done digging up the rows and incorporating compost into the first 3 or 4 inches. Next step is to basically pile on another couple inches of compost on top of that and start really forming up these rows, and then I'll kind of decide how much I have left over for in between the rows. Let's get into it.
Now, cause I don't wanna slow this down. My heart is screaming out your name. I'm wasted on you. Here we are, right underneath the stars. So in case you're curious, this is organic compost, and we spent $46 per cubic yard, which still seems insane to me. This whole load cost about $350, but actually it ended up coming out to almost the exact same price, just under $2 per cubic foot, as the non-organic steer manure that we were using before, just in a bagged form. It was only a little bit more expensive, so that's why we went ahead and we shelled out for the organic stuff. But yeah, just in case you're curious, we spent $46 per cubic yard on organic compost. I think it looks pretty good. Obviously, time will tell, and that was a very, very good price for our area. It was by far the cheapest that I was able to find. Okay, so we've got compost piled on all of the rows. Finally, I think I might be starting to lose the light a little bit here. Super, super nice that our heat wave finally broke today, but unfortunately it has been accompanied by some wind, and the really dry compost is kind of getting blown around, which is a bummer, wasting all that money that we spent on the compost. So I'm gonna go ahead and form up these rows a little bit, basically just rake them down, rake up the sides a little bit, and then tamp them down just a little bit. I need to get the rows and the compost pile itself a little bit wet just to prevent some of the loss that we're seeing from the wind right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. Okay, it's the next day and Operation Giant Compost Pile is nearing an end. We've got all the rows formed up. They're looking pretty good. We had a little bit of wind last night, so I've been trying to just keep it moist so that we don't lose too much. But overall, yeah, doing pretty good. At this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and spread a little bit of extra compost, real light, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch in between each of the rows. And the only reason that I'm doing that is not so much that I think it's going to make a difference in the short run, but because I do plan to add a pretty thick layer of wood chip mulch here in the near future, and I think having that compost underneath the wood chip mulch is just going to help speed up some of that decomposition and turning the soil in between the rows into a more usable material, which is the goal at the end of the day or in the long run. So that's where we're at. Gonna go ahead and move a little bit more compost here, but we're super close to the finish line. All right, that is it. There you have it. I think we are done. I've still got lots of compost, but most of that is gonna go into other areas of the garden.
If at this point you are paying close attention and you are wondering why it looks like a drunken sailor designed these rows, basically it's an artifact of how we put them in. They weren't put in all at the same time, so for instance, these rows over here were the first ones that we put together a year or so ago, and we did leafy greens over here, and I didn't really think anything was going to work, so I didn't put that much time into it, and we probably made the rows themselves a little bit too narrow, and we put too much room between those rows. And then if you get a little bit farther along here, some of these really tall ones and kind of wonky ones, some of them that look like they almost snake, those were tomato rows. And I do my tomatoes in an offset pattern, or I used to do my tomatoes in an offset pattern. Turning that offset pattern of deep planting holes into a straight trench row was pretty difficult. I didn't quite manage it, to be honest, but it's close enough. It's close enough.